The views of this program are not necessarily the views of KJLL Radio, its management, or its sponsors. The host is solely responsible for its content. Enjoy.
Studios of KJLL here in Tucson. This is the Jake Feinberg Show. My guest today is one of the most adaptable and dependable double bass players in modern American music. He was born in Chicago and started playing piano and drums before switching to bass in high school. After spending time gigging and cutting albums with Walter Perkins, he moved to New York when the music scene was spawning Grant Green, Joe Henderson, Duke Pearson, Mickey Roker, Bobby Hutcherson, and Rudy Van Gelder. Quickly, my guest became one of the most heavily sought-after session players on the East Coast. Blue Note, Cobblestone and Muse, and Milestone. He did sessions on them all. Over the last 50 years, he's developed a special musical collaboration with Sonny Rollins, who he continues to gig with. Let's welcome in the great Bob Cranshaw to the Jake Feinberg Show. How are you, Bob?
All right, fine, thank you.
I wanted to ask...
Well.
Go ahead.
No, I said doing well.
Very, very good. As I mentioned, you started playing piano and drums before switching to bass, and I wanted to ask you if you could talk a little bit about your high school band teacher and the role that he played in your early musical career.
Well, see, we had the school was in Evanston, and we had a huge orchestra. I mean, it was a pretty wealthy school. Evanston is we're Northwestern and a lot of theological seminaries, so it's not a poor town. But the school music system was really very, very, very good. And the orchestra director, with my brothers, encouraged me to really want to play. You know, I've been brought up around music all my life because my father was an engineer, but he was a drummer also. So music was always there. And then I have a brother who was a great piano player, and I had an adopted brother who was a vibist. So music has always been there, you know, but they encouraged me to play and to study.
And so you coming from the musical background, there was music in the house, there were instruments all over the house. I mean, you guys were just constantly playing all types of improvisational?
Yeah, well, for me, I remember, I don't know, an uncle or somebody had a clarinet there, and I just picked the clarinet up and started to learn to play on it. You know, anything that was there, I was going to play on, you know. But piano was always there. But I started out wanting to be a concert percussionist. I wasn't really into, but bass wasn't the first, you know, piano was first. And then I started to study drums in 4th grade. And I studied all of the drums, and I played all the way up through high school with the marching band and so forth. And I played the bass in the orchestra, so it was a double whammy for me, you know. But I'd never wanted to play jazz drums. I never really even tried. I wanted to be a classical percussionist.
Wow, that's unbelievable. Can you talk a little bit about how, because the piano and drums are both percussive instruments, and I wanted to know how what you were able to take from those instruments and incorporate them into your upright bass playing when you switched over to the bass.
Well, I'm kind of a percussive bass player, you know. I'm kind of, one of the books says that I have a light sound, but that's not really true, you know. It's not. I play pretty hard. My playing is hard, but the percussive, I like something that feels good. My playing generally is about a feel to me. I like to really groove things. I like to set a nice pocket. And with me enjoying kind of anchoring things, that's kind of been my love, trying to anchor a band, you know. And I guess it comes from the drums or whatever, you know.
I was going to say, because, you know, your buddy Mickey Roker said his job as a drummer was to swing the band. So
yeah.
Do you consider, if your primary job as a bass player is to anchor the band, what do you say to that?
Yeah, well, that's how Mickey Roker and I kind of ended up being a nice duo is, like, I feel like drums are a lot more exciting to me than usually a bass player, or a bass. But my thing was to lock the groove. Mickey had the swing, and I felt like I helped set the pocket. I helped set the groove of the band. And with a nice, strong beat under whatever it was, I thought, through my career, my thing has been to anchor the band. I'm not a great soloist. I don't really care that much about soloing, but I enjoy anchoring and making the band feel good. That's kind of been my role. That's what I enjoy doing more than anything.
Yeah, I kid you not. I mean, I didn't have the greatest day today, but I was doing research before we came on. I went to allmusic.com,
Mm-hmm.
and this album popped up, and it was the album of the day. And I swear to you, they could put on soul, rap, blues. They could put on anything, and they happened to choose this particular album. And I happened to have a song clip from this album. Featuring you. I wanted to. This is early Bob Cranshaw, early New York Bob Cranshaw. I wanted to play it and come back and talk about being in the pocket. All right.
Okay.
Hit it. Moments with Bob Cranshaw. How great was that?
All right. That was nice.
Does that session? Do you still have any memory of that session?
We had a ball. It was a nice session. It was a great session. Some great players. And on that record, my thing was to anchor, to hold the groove, just hold the pocket. Keep the pulse going.
Oh, you did it so good. I don't. Just. I mean, you're just. It's just like it's a metronome. It's just back and forth. And for the audience, that was Jean de Fleur, which was a Grant Green. And I tell you, I kid you not, Bob, I went on All Music today, and that was the album of the day.
Oh, beautiful.
I said it was meant to be. But to a larger point, you had Grant, and you had Joe Henderson, and you had Bobby Hutcherson, Duke Pearson, and yourself. All these guys that came together at one time. They were real confident and very bright, but also they had something to say. And I was wondering how you could account for these guys coming together, right place, right time, or is there something sociologically going on that breeded people like this?
Well, I think just the right place at the right time. We all understood each other. We all really had it was a different time, and the music was happy. The guys were glad to be together. We were not making the kind of monies that guys probably make now, but we had a good time.
Why was the music happier?
Well, to me, we had a better audience that appreciated. The audience is a little different now. It was just a happy time. We were young guys having a great time with some great people.
But did you see a future for not just jazz, but did you see a future for the black race as well?
Yeah.
And what did that future? That future had a positive spin to it because of civil rights movements and breakthroughs and different types of things like that. Because, that to me, it was just that album, Idle Moments. It still stands the test of time today.
Yeah.
And yet I don't hear anything like that going. I mean, there probably is great stuff, but it certainly does not get the exposure like a record on Blue Note with liner notes and pictures to boot. We don't have there's not the investment in the arts the way there was back then.
Yeah, no, everything has definitely changed, and again, records like that, you could not only listen to the records, but you could see the guys. Everybody was more visible there. A lot, very few, a lot less guys really doing any of it. There are very few groups, so you don't really hear it. Where at that time, there were a lot of groups, there were a lot of great groups. And so we had a ball. It was just a ball trying to create, and working with one of those great groups. Now it's just a few.
That's right. And it just seemed to be this huge stable. And actually, I wanted to ask you, when you came to New York, how did you get initially locked into Blue Note Records?
I don't know. Alfred Lyons, the guys, I don't know who called me first, but once I started to record for him, I thought that one of the things, I was dependable. The guys enjoyed playing with me. I didn't have any problems playing with any of the guys. I didn't have an ego. I just wanted to play. And I got called. So once I was there, I was always on time. I followed directions.
Right.
I could hear what was happening. I mean, I was geared to really do some of those things, because I was always there, and they didn't have to go through anything with me. If the musicians asked me to play a certain thing or a certain way, I was just open, I didn't throw up any barriers about any of it.
Can you talk a little bit could you take us inside, the Van Gelder studio, for instance, like if you would go to Englewood Cliffs, would the guys travel out together? Would you all just meet up there, and would you get your charts that day? Can you talk a little bit about a session?
Well, for a session, we would rehearse maybe twice. Usually we rehearsed for like 2 hours one day and maybe a couple, 2 hours another day, and then we were ready to do it. We would run through all of the music, and once we got to Rudy's was always business. He was very strict about his studio and so forth, but in doing some of the time, a lot of the guys were strung out, so, and it was a different period, but Rudy was very stern in what he wanted in his studio, and we would just go out. We were ready to create, but we also ready to get paid, because you got paid after you finished the date, so a payday was always great.
No, and I want to save it. I want to talk a lot about union and collective bargaining with you later in the show. But why? What was Rudy Van Gelder's goal? Was his goal to go after? Did he know what he was doing? What he was doing at the time was going to have this kind of ripple effect, or did he have other motivations? Was he more of a?
No, I think he knew he had a certain sound. He had a certain sound in his studio. He knew his studio, and he knew what he wanted, and so he always got a great sound out of his studio, and it became the sound of the label. Period. But you always knew when you heard a Blue Note record. You knew it was a Blue Note record. You knew it was done at Rudy Van Gelder's. I mean, you could hear it.
What could you hear? I know what I hear, but everybody hears it. Was it just the density of it, just the quality?
The quality of it, you could hear everything. It was always together. It was just a certain sound of jazz that Rudy kind of helped create. It was a great. He had a great sound. He knew his studio.
Did you? Were there times? I know I talked to Mickey about this when I went to visit him in Philadelphia. He said he'll go to Japan and they'll give him an album to sign that he was on, and he doesn't even remember getting a promo copy of the album that he was on. Did that wind up happening a lot? Like, for instance, with Idle Moments, did you receive copies of that, being a player on it?
No. You bought your own. You didn't receive. They didn't. At least I never asked. If they paid me, then I could buy my own album. That was my thing. I felt I didn't ask them to give me. I never got that really close to any of the people. I was working a job. I finished the job. You paid me, and that was it. I didn't feel like I was due an album from the company and all that. I never got into that.
Is too much assumed given these days? Do we assume that we should be given stuff as a society?
Well, generally, yes. I knew that he was in the business of selling records, the company. And I assumed that having me on the records would help them sell it. I mean, that's how they were looking at it. You know, I figured the record company knew my worth as far as being on one of their albums, and I think that would be the way that I would look at it. You know, it was a business deal, so I didn't ask for anything extra. This is what I do, and they paid me for it. So when I left, you know, having a family, I was more interested in getting paid. I didn't care whether they gave me a record or not. You know.
Let's talk about your family a little bit. I mean, you had children. How young were you when you had kids?
Very young. You know, very young.
So you had quite a few responsibilities at a younger age. So it wasn't so much about.
Right. I had the responsibilities at a young age, and you know, I accepted the responsibility, but I still wanted to play jazz. But I feel like what I feel generally may be different than a lot of the jazz musicians. You know, I'm always feel that I'm going to take care of my family. You know, but it was a business to me. I had fun doing it, but I didn't get into a lot of the other things that guys get into. I knew it was a business, and it was a business that I enjoyed, and I got paid to do what I enjoy. And I always wanted to do it well, and I didn't want to run over. I didn't want to take advantage of anybody, and I didn't allow the others to take advantage of me. I worked a job. I got paid.
But you stayed clean too.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And there were a lot of guys who shirked family, had children just like you did, but they were much more individualistic minded and wound up getting strung out.
Yeah, they were into different things. I just never, I never went that way. That wasn't my thing,
Absolutely. Now, Bob, I wanted to ask you, there was a guy that I wanted to talk to you about. You were on a number of his albums on the Prestige label, and I'm talking about Eric Kloss. He, to me, always struck me as a really pretty spectacular player, and I'm wondering about what you remember about your experiences playing with him during the We're Going Up and First Class Kloss and albums like that.
Like, I don't remember a lot playing with him. I don't. He was a great player, but I don't remember a lot of things about our sessions, or what happened on the session.
Right.
Again, being a professional, I had a good time. My thing was to have a good time. I wanted to have fun playing, and so everything was always open for me, and open to me. I just had a good time playing. I planned music. I knew that's what I wanted to do, and I had a good time with it, where a lot of guys may have had problems of playing or what to play or how to play, or however this guy somebody wanted to put a label on this and that. I never got into that.
I just wanted to, we're talking to Bob Cranshaw, famous double bass player, currently living in the New York area. We're going to go to a break at the bottom of the hour, Bob, but I just wanted to talk to you a little bit about what you're doing these days. What are you doing musically?
Well, still working with Sonny Rollins. We're getting ready to go on the road and doing some teaching here in New York and being involved in the union. I'm the consultant to the concert and jazz department at the union, so trying to help guys understand about pensions and just trying to help the younger players through things that I've learned over the years as one of the senior members, and passing things on to the younger guys that I've learned. And again, by being very open, and I feel guys seeing me and trusting me and watching me, they know that I'm straight ahead. I'm a straight shooter. I don't get in the games and so forth, but I want to look out for the younger guys, because people like Milt Hinton and others look out for me.
Exactly. That was very well put. Bob, we're going to go to a quick break. We got a lot more to talk to. Sesame Street, Saturday Night Live, and unions. Bob Cranshaw, hang tight. We'll be back on the other side of the break, okay?
Okay.
Brother Kenny Powell on the drums and Brother Larry McDonald on the bottom.
CNN Radio, I'm Jim Ribble. There's heightened security around the country, particularly in Washington and New York, for the 9/11 anniversary. Memorials were held today in Washington, New York, and Shanksville, Pennsylvania for the victims. While there's no corroborating information that terrorists are planning a new attack, authorities are trying to locate 2 missing U-Haul vans in Maryland. President Obama's declared a major disaster in Texas because of the wildfires. The one near Austin has destroyed nearly 1,400 homes. One of them is Monica Turner's, and she wants to see for herself.
I want to get in, and I can't right now. I want to have the peace of mind that, yes, my house is gone. I can actually look and see that my house is gone from my own eyes.
Government officials in Tanzania now say at least 200 people died in a ferryboat accident off the island of Zanzibar. The boat was carrying more people than it could safely carry. More than 500 people were rescued. The ferry capsized in high winds and rough seas. The most trusted name in news. This is CNN Radio.
And now the bonus round. If absence makes the heart grow fonder, what does presence make?
I want to say crab dip.
Correct. Finish this sequence. Tree, sky.
Transubstantiationalism.
Correct. What can you watch instantly with Netflix?
Unlimited TV episodes and movies.
Correct! Watch unlimited TV episodes and movies for only $8 a month from Netflix. See terms of use.
Ma'am, are you crying?
I cry when I'm happy.
Well, that makes 2 of us.
My wife's monthly trip to the beauty salon was really adding up. I mean, between dyeing her roots and trimming the dead ends, we were going dead broke. So to save some money, I'm cutting it for her. While she sleeps. Shh. No, don't wake up yet. Go to sleep, you're almost gorgeous. Oh, she is gonna love this.
There's an easier way to save. Get online. Go to geico.com. Get a quote. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance.
On to round 3. If a train leaves Spokane...
Schenectady by Saturday.
Correct. March comes before May. What's in my left pocket?
Half a mint and a rusty switchblade.
Correct.
Bam.
Who lets you watch TV episodes and movies instantly over the internet?
Ha-ha! Netflix.
Correct! Watch unlimited TV episodes and movies for only $8 a month from Netflix. See terms of use.
That is rad!
I know. Can you put me down now?
Sorry, I'm a hugger.
As a home plate ump, my eyesight is my paycheck. Strike one!
Strike? That thing was chin high!
But the price of monthly contact lenses was eating me up. Strike two!
Come on, it bounced to the plate!
So to save some money, I'm just using these glasses I found. Cha-ching! Strike three, you're out!
He hasn't even pitched the ball yet!
There's an easier way to save. Get online. Go to geico.com. Get a quote. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance.
Folks, this is Jake Feinberg. One of the first things I wanted to do when I moved to Tucson was find authentic Chinese cuisine. After a tip from the Chinese Student Association, I headed over to Badar Chinese Restaurant. Well, it's been 7 years, and I have never looked back. Located at 7321 East Broadway Boulevard, Badar has been a family-run operation since 1992. The award-winning chef produces succulent dishes from sizzling ginger chicken to salt and pepper shrimp. The thing that separates Badar from the rest is that the chef procures ancient oriental dishes with the exotic island flair of Taiwan. Most importantly, there are no gimmicks or razzle-dazzle at Badar. You won't find any flat-screen TVs or karaoke machines. Badar is a place to go enjoy good food and spend time with your family. It exudes peace and tranquility after a long week of work. So come down and check out Badar Chinese Restaurant. 很好吃. It's that good. Folks, this is Jake Feinberg. As a passionate consumer of vinyl records, I value the art of collecting and archiving. So I have marked my calendar for Sunday, November 6th for the 7th annual Tucson Record Show, located at Las Casuaritas Event Center at I-10 in Grant. The show features vinyl collectors and dealers from all over the state. Doors open at 9 a.m. and tables are available for rent, but space is running out fast. For more information, contact Bruce Smith at 622-0104. The 7th Annual Tucson Record Show, 1365 West Grant and I-10, Sunday, November 7th. It's time to dig and get dirty. Don't miss it. If you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem. Be a part of a new coalition with Jake Feinberg. The second half of my show starts right now. Welcome back, everybody. And Bob, thanks for sitting through the storm warning. That's FCC. We have to do that via the FCC. How you doing?
All right.
All right. So let's talk a little bit about, if you would, when I talked to Mickey Roker, he talked about this time where you and him wound up moving in together to an apartment on the Upper West Side.
Uh-huh.
And Duke Pearson would come over quite a bit and run through charts with you guys, and in preparation for a big band that you would eventually move into. And I was just hoping for you to me it sounds like a pretty special scene there, if you could paint that picture.
But that was, again, a great time in our lives, because we were all, the three of us were around the same age, and playing, all three of us played with different groups, but when we met each other and we started to play, we always had fun playing together. Duke was an incredible musician, period, just with his writing and things, and he would come up to the house and he would play, but he was always looking out for Mickey and I, like I felt like sometimes he would do a record date and I would want somebody else. I was doing so many different things. I started to feel guilty because there were so many great bass players around. I didn't want to be called for everything, I felt like it was important for other guys to have a chance to also work, Again, I knew I was dependable, and I guess for most of the record companies, Ron Carter and I didn't really have the jazz kind of head. We were always dependable, so I think that was really big. But Duke and Mickey and I used to just have a good time. We had a good time just being together, whether we played or not. But we had a piano in the apartment, and so it was all. The guys would come up all the time to play. Mickey has such a great personality. He's like a comedian, so you would laugh with him and at him from morning to night. But it was just a great relationship. I'm just happy. I'm very proud to have come through with music when I did, because I got a chance to be involved in a lot of different things over my career. I teach at the New School here in New York, and I tell students, jazz was my dessert, but it wasn't the whole meal. I was able to do other things outside of just jazz gigs and recordings, but I didn't play any less for anybody else. I was going to swing on whoever I played with, whether it was Dixieland or, a rock thing. It was always the same with me as far as my response to wherever I played and whatever I played.
Did you, how did you get involved with Sesame Street, for instance. The idea of, how did that all come together? And is that
it came together one day. Chuck Israel, the bass player,
Sure.
called me. Now we all knew each other, but how he picked me, he was doing an off-Broadway show called The House of Flowers. And he was getting ready to leave to go to the East Coast or Washington State or something to teach. And he asked me if I would mind doing this show for him. So I said, sure. But I knew he also knew that I was one of the guys. I was really very open. I just enjoyed playing. And as I said before, I like to swing and I like to groove. I can do that with any band I play with, So he called me and I went on to play the show. I went to look at the show before, and he was showing me the music. And when I got to the show and I listened to the band, I stayed for 20 minutes and I left laughing because the drummer was fighting the percussionist. Nobody seemed to want to play together. It was like everybody wanted to lead, and there wasn't a lock on anything. And at that point, Joe Raposo, the guy who became musical director for Sesame Street, was the conductor. So I put in, and the first thing I did was I locked the time down so that everything felt good. It wasn't a scramble to see who was going to do this. Everybody could do exactly what they were doing, but it was going to feel good. That was my thing. We're going to feel good tonight. These people going to enjoy this show. That was my attitude. So after a while, Joe Raposo wasn't the kind of piano player that I was accustomed to playing with generally. He wasn't the Herbie Hancocks or Duke Pearson I'm accustomed to playing with this caliber player. Joe Raposo played much different, and he played a lot in his left hand. In other words, the notes that I would play, he would also play in his left hand. But I said, okay, that's the way he plays, so I'm not going to change it. I didn't get uptight about it or anything. I said, what I'm going to do, I'm going to make it feel so good to him that he's going to end up sticking his left hand in his pocket. When we get ready to play, I'm going to make him put the hand in the pocket. And no sooner than we started to play, we had such a good time. He got the job to do Sesame Street, and he asked me would I enjoy doing it. And I did it for 30-some years.
How did you see the Sesame Street? Was it a live show where there was an audience and you actually were a band off to the...
No, there wasn't an audience. We did everything in the studio.
So the idea...
It was all... things were written, but Joe was very open as a writer because he knew after we worked together for a while, all he had to do was to put chord changes. He didn't have to write notes. If he wanted me to play a certain thing, he would write it. Other than that, I could hear what he was doing, and I was able to understand how he wrote what he wrote, and I knew what to do with it. And we just ended up, it was a love affair.
I wanted to say that what was great about it was that Jake Feinberg in the early 80s was definitely listening to Bob Cranshaw bass parts on Sesame Street because I would take a nap in the afternoon. My dad would wake me up, put me down in front of the TV, and I would religiously watch that show. So I had you in my head when I was 4 years old, and I didn't even know it.
Well, and a lot of what happened to the show generally when we recorded the tune, Sing a Song, I was also working at that time with Peggy Lee.
Oh, wow.
And Peggy had a breathing problem, so she would kind of sing and talk at that stage. She had a lung problem. And so when we recorded the tune, I said, damn, this is going to be a great tune. This would be a great tune for Peggy. So we recorded it. I called her from the studio, and I played it for her. She said, send it out. I sent it out to California. They recorded Peggy and the tune on a CD, but they didn't. But the record company, Capitol, didn't push that tune. That they didn't push that tune on the CD. But at the time, the Carpenters were in the studio when she recorded the tune, and when the Carpenters heard it, they recorded it, and it became a hit. Joe Raposo became a big writer from that situation. He, wrote a lot of things with Frank Sinatra and so forth. So it was a beautiful relationship. I've enjoyed all my gigs. I've really, it's a crime to enjoy as much stuff, I feel like, as I've enjoyed, because it's been great for me. Music business has been great for me. Just, I cannot complain. I can play the blues, but I can't cry the blues.
Right. No, and it's the unselfishness. Ron Carter told me that as an accompanist, as a bass player, it was his job to make the leader of the band sound as good as possible.
That's right.
And that was it. And and I say to myself, it's amazing to have that, because back then money was not nearly the issue that it is today.
No.
And you had a situation where Ron Carter, yourself, you were secure in your playing. It was a business, and you were going to get paid for it, and you were okay with the leader getting the accolades for it because you know, and that's changed.
Well, because everybody started to make it like, in order for you to really be able to make it, you had to be the leader. To create within the music generally, like guys, DJs, and so forth. Whenever all of these things, everybody needed a piece. We had guys who would play records, and that was what they were involved in. All of a sudden, the business got to the place, like with the discos. You had to make your record so that you gave the guy at the disco a chance to be able to mix some other things. I mean, all of these things became a part of the business. We didn't have that at first. None of that was there. We barely, I remember working with Carmen McRae. She had a manager, but a booking agent is what she had. She had a manager, but they didn't have all of the things that the kids have now to promote their things. The business expanded, and a lot of other people, again, had to be involved in it. So the music had to be played thinking about somebody else who was going to spin the record, and all of these things became involved, and the music just changed.
Yeah, I for my audience, Bob is we listened to a track earlier from an album that he did with Grant Green where he was on upright bass. But Bob, you also transitioned over. You made a transition to the electric bass, and I wanted to talk to you about that. But first, I wanted to play a track, another track with you on electric, and have you take a listen, and also have your wife take a listen too.
Okay.
All right.
All right. Thank you.
short time here, Sand in My Blues. That was another really groovy tune there, Bob.
Yeah.
I was going to say, the cool thing about that tune, it has like kind of a Mr. Magic bass line to it, but then you go through that sort of bridge, do 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 do, and that's sort of the groove, right? It's sort of that's sort of just being in the pocket.
Yeah, just being in the pocket. And I think when was that one made?
It's funny. It was Mike Longo, 1978, but the CD came out in 1998, which was kind of fascinating. But it was you and Curtis Fuller. At the beginning, Curtis almost sounds like he's playing a trumpet. That's how amazing his trombone playing was.
Yeah, it was beautiful.
And Mike was on piano, and you, and obviously, Mickey was on drums, and it was a big band effort. But that was. You could hear the influences of disco coming into the music at that time already. There was more of a disco-y sound at that period of time, but still.
Well, it was funny for me because of I was in a car accident. I was doing the TV show. I was doing the David Frost TV show here with Billy Taylor's band for the TV show. And I was on my way to work. I think I was coming from the union. I had gone to pick up some recording checks, and I was on my way to the show. And I was in a cab, and the truck hit the cab, and it kind of messed up my back. So I started to play electric. And I knew at that time, like it was harder for me to play the string bass because every time I played the string bass, the muscles of my back would tighten up, so I was just having problems, and I still had to work. So I said I just transferred it from one instrument to the next. A bass for me is a bass is a bass. A lot of guys are purists about wanting just to play the string bass and so forth, and I understand that I'm not disturbed by it. But for me, a bass was a bass, and what I hear on one instrument, I hear on the other instruments. So I just transferred. I just started to play the electric. And I knew that I had to try to come up with a sound in playing the electric bass that was closer to playing the string bass, because the guys that I've been accustomed to playing with are acoustic players. And I didn't want to wipe out what they were doing, but I also knew that string bass players, if you walk in a place with an electric bass and they're playing string bass, the sound and the response of the electric bass is much louder, much quicker. It has a whole different character. So I didn't want to piss off any of the string bass players with me playing the instrument, but I played it. I never really thought about one as opposed to the other. I just grabbed one. You give me one, I'm going to play the same thing I hear, and if I play the string bass, you're going to hear pretty much the same thing. I didn't make where most jazz players don't want to play electric. That's first. But I didn't make a difference. A bass was a bass for me. I don't care.
I think the funny thing that I've learned about Bob Cranshaw in this interview is that, like, you have a duty to support your family, right? You it's a business, but yet you had the ability to do what you loved. And so many people don't have that. I was talking to my producer before we came on the program, and we were just talking about people can plan vacations 6 months out to a T, but they can't plan their own life out.
Like that. That's true.
And it's to me, it speaks to the fact that people just aren't motivated or happy with what they're really doing. Yet you. So, I mean, it's brilliant.
Well, and I'm fortunate. I mean, I've been able to, I wanted to play music, and my kids, my family, my wife, all allowed me to do what I do, and they knew I enjoy doing what I do, and it made their lives more enjoyable to see me do what I enjoy. So the whole picture for me it's just been great. I mean, music has just been great to me and for me. I'm in the process of trying to put a book together because I've had some great experiences and just a lovely time. I mean, again, I say I could play the blues, but I really can't cry the blues.
Exactly, I love that.
I've had such a great career, and with Mickey and all of us, Mickey was just 79 last week.
He had vocal cord surgery too.
Yeah. I talked to him. We talk 2 or 3 times a week. Still, I mean, we're close. But I'll be 79 in December, and so now we're the senior citizens of the music at this point. We're the older members. So my thing now is giving back. I got to help the young guys come through.
How are you? Let's in our remaining couple minutes talk a little bit about the role that you're playing with younger musicians.
Trying to make sure, talking to them about drugs, talking to them about being open. I have a young student now, and this kid can play his behind off. I'm trying to get him into Broadway shows, into doing other things that he's also qualified. He studied bass. He studied as much music on the bass as some symphony players. Most of the guys are equipped to do other things, but we get stuck in just one thing. I knew when I came to New York, like Ron, I was qualified to play more than just jazz. I wasn't going to let somebody stick me and say, well, you got to stay there. I've done Broadway shows. I did Jesus Christ Superstar with a rock band on Broadway for 2 or 3 years and had a ball.
So just, and we have 1 minute left. If you want the legacy that you want to leave, what would that be? What do you want to, most importantly, to get across about who Bob Cranshaw was and what you stood for?
Having a good time. Having a good time doing what you enjoy doing. Enjoy your life. And like I said, I've been fortunate with my kids and my wife. They've all allowed me to do what I do. So my life, I feel, I have a perfect life. I got a gorgeous wife. I got gorgeous kids. They're all, they're all great. They're just great, And I have, my grandkids are great. And now I'm just enjoying life, and I'm trying to put, again, I've taken a lot out of the pot. I'm trying to put a lot back. That's why I help the young kids. That's what I do with the young people. I try to help them. Like I said, this one bass player who's one of my favorites.
Bob Cranshaw, I just want to tell you, we have to wrap things up.
All right.
We can talk some more.
Thank you for having me, and I'll talk to you soon.
It was a pleasure, my friend. Have a great weekend. This is the Jake Feinberg Show, everybody.
Stay in touch.
All right, now.
All right. Take
Bye-bye.
care.
KJLL, South Tucson.
CBS News, I'm Sam Litzinger. Senior U.S. officials say there's no evidence that anyone linked to al-Qaeda has entered the country to carry out an attack on the